The millionaire walked in unannounced, and what she saw the black janitor doing in her office chair didn't just shock her. It ended her empire and built his. It was 11:37 p.m. on a Tuesday. The 45th floor of Sterling Holdings was supposed to be empty, just glass, city lights, and silence. But when Victoria Sterling, CEO and self-made millionaire, pushed open her office door without knocking,
She froze.
because sitting in her Italian leather chair, in her office, at her computer, was David Johnson, the night janitor, green uniform, work shoes, gloves tucked into his back pocket, typing calmly on her computer, like he owned it. Her voice detonated. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" Her Hermes bag hit the floor. David looked up. No flinch. No stutter. No babbling apology. Just a calm, steady gaze that made her anger trip over itself. "Good evening, Ms. Sterling," he said. "I was just finishing some calculations. Before we see how those calculations blew up her life, hit like if you love watching underestimated people win, subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one. And tell me in the comments, have you ever been treated like you were invisible? All right, let's rewind." Victoria stormed across the room. "Calculations on my computer. You're fired. I'm calling security right now." David didn't move. Instead, he turned the monitor toward her. Rows, columns, formulas. A massive spreadsheet filled the screen. Her stomach dropped. Account numbers. Offshore transfers. Fake consulting fees. Overpriced contracts. 3 months earlier. Quarterly board meeting. Profits were up. Investors were glowing. Victoria was in performance mode. David was in the corner, vacuuming quietly, like always. He'd worked there 3 years. Night shifts, invisible, background noise, until she decided to use him as a prop. An executive spilled coffee near some documents. David stepped forward with paper towels. Because while he'd been just the janitor, he'd also seen the contracts on that table, the internal projections, the adjusted budgets hiding millions in redirected funds. As she tried to humiliate him in front of the board, something snapped into focus. He wasn't just hurt. He was done. David Johnson was 34, raised by his grandmother, who cleaned mansions in wealthy neighborhoods. His first real lesson wasn't the alphabet. It was invisibility. "Baby," she used to tell him, "people like us survive by knowing when to talk and when to listen. And listening, that's worth more than any degree." Funny thing, he almost had that degree. Full scholarship to study accounting. Top of his class. Near perfect grades in auditing and forensic finance. He dropped out in his 3rd year to take care of her. 3 jobs. No complaints. Life didn't care about his GPA. The janitor job at Sterling Holdings was supposed to be temporary. Just a paycheck. But every night as he emptied trash cans and wiped glass walls, he listened. He watched. He learned it was dirt, the kind that moves through numbered accounts. Back in the office, Victoria tried to recover. "You don't have the guts," she scoffed. "To do what exactly? Blackmail me?" David pulled a tiny flash drive from his pocket and let it swing gently between them. 3 years collecting evidence, he said. 3 years of meetings you thought nobody else heard. 3 years of documenting every law you broke. He nodded toward the spreadsheet. Money laundering, rigged public contracts, tax evasion, stock manipulation, it's all here. "You're bluffing," she snapped. "Even if you had something, I can crush you. You're nothing. You mop floors." David walked toward the door. "Oh, and Ms. Sterling," he said, pausing tomorrow. "I'll be back to my normal schedule. There's still a lot of dirt to clean up around here." He left her alone, with one terrifying thought. If a simple janitor could uncover all this. Victoria didn't sleep. By sunrise, she was pacing her penthouse, phone pressed to her ear. "Marcus, I want this man investigated down to his blood type." Marcus Wellington, head of corporate security, ex-FBI, scribbled notes. "Red alert?" he asked. "Treat it like war," she snapped. "I want him unemployable in this city, ever." 2 hours later, she dragged HR in. Rachel, the HR director, stood in her office, clutching a folder. "Technically, David's record is spotless," Rachel said carefully. "No write-ups, no complaints, no lateness. If we fire him for no reason, he could—" "I don't care." Victoria slammed her hand on the desk. "I want him gone today. Make something up." Rachel swallowed. "If he sues, there could be discrimination claims, retaliation." "I built this company," Victoria hissed. "I decide who works here. If you can't remove one janitor, I'll remove you." Rachel walked out, hands shaking. David! He clocked in like any other night, except this time, there was a tiny camera hidden in his pocket, a recorder tucked among the cleaning supplies, and a quiet clarity in his eyes. For 3 years, he'd had evidence. Now, thanks to Victoria's temper, he had proof of retaliation, too. By noon, Marcus called back. We dug into him, Marcus said. He's clean, no debt, no arrests, great references. There's always something, she snapped. Keep digging, Marcus hesitated. We did find one thing, he said. He was an accounting major, top of his class, specializing in forensic auditing. Dropped out when his grandmother got sick. No explanation, no severance, just a plastic bag with his things and an escort to the door. He turned in his badge, walked out without a scene, because he wasn't walking away. He was walking toward something. Downtown in a quiet cafe, an older man in a worn suit sat waiting. This was James Mitchell, former FBI Financial Crimes Unit. Now a consultant who helped whistleblowers bring down corporate fraud. David slid the flash drive across the table. James looked up. How did a janitor get this? David gave a small, tired smile. Rich people talk like we're furniture, he said. They leave documents open, passwords on sticky notes. They forget the person cleaning around them isn't deaf or stupid. James closed the laptop. This will nuke her, he said, and maybe half her board. Good, David replied. But I don't just want her gone. I want this on record. I want people to see what they did. James offered his hand. Then let's make sure they can't bury it. 48 hours later, the story broke. Friday, 6:47 a.m. Victoria's phone dragged her out of a restless sleep. Victoria, Marcus said, the FBI is downstairs. So are the IRS and SEC. They have warrants for 5 years of records. She shot up. On what grounds, she demanded. Money laundering, fraud, and corruption in public tenders, he said. This is serious. She grabbed her laptop. The New York Times homepage loaded, David in his green uniform on the other. The article laid it out. Mr. Johnson, 34, spent 3 years quietly documenting a sophisticated scheme at Sterling Holdings. Using his training in accounting and forensic auditing, he compiled an archive of evidence. Her phone exploded. Rachel. Journalists keep calling. They're asking about David, about that boardroom incident, about retaliation. Her lawyer. Victoria, we need to talk. They have recordings, spreadsheets, password logs. This isn't going away. A clip hit social media. Audio from that board meeting. It seems you can't even learn the simplest tasks. Caption, she mocked her janitor's intelligence. Turns out he was the smartest person in the building. Hashtags trended. Sterling scandal. Justice for David. All work has dignity. By 9 a.m., the board had met without her. The chairman called. Victoria, the board has voted to remove you as CEO effective immediately. Our stock is collapsing. Our reputation is in flames. We're done. You can't do this. I am Sterling Holdings. No, he said softly. You were, not anymore. 6 months later, David Johnson sat in a very different office. Not as a janitor, as a financial crimes consultant, working with federal investigators. His salary? 3 times what he made at Sterling. His work? Reviewing complex fraud cases and building a national whistleblower training program for overlooked workers. Janitors, assistants, receptionists, junior staff. The people who see everything. On his desk was a photo of his grandmother and a sticky note that said, invisibility is a superpower if you know how to use it. Every time a file came in from a worker saying, I think something's wrong here, he remembered pushing a vacuum past conference rooms and thinking he was stuck there forever. He wasn't. And Victoria? The court seized her penthouse, her cars, her art. She pled to federal fraud charges to avoid a worse sentence. Her LinkedIn went quiet, just a headset and a quota. One evening on a crowded subway, she spotted him. David. No suit, just a coat, headphones, backpack. She lowered her head, hoping he wouldn't see her. He did. Miss Sterling, he said gently. She braced for humiliation. Instead, he just nodded. I hope you're doing better, he said. No gloating. No speech. Then he stepped off at the next stop and disappeared into the crowd. That's when it hit her. The best revenge was never destruction. It was elevation. David proved, your dignity doesn't depend on their respect. Your intelligence doesn't shrink just because they can't see it. And your uniform has nothing to do with your worth. All he needed was patience, a sharp mind, and the arrogance of a millionaire who thought he'd never matter. If this story hits you even a little, tap like so more people hear it. Share it with someone who's been underestimated. Tell me in the comments, what's the worst time someone judged you by your job or your background and got you completely wrong? And if you want more stories where people turn disrespect into power, subscribe and turn on notifications, because sometimes the janitor isn't just cleaning the floor. He's quietly getting ready to clean up the whole system.